When people go to the movies, they expect to escape reality for a few hours, to be entertained, thrilled, or even scared, but only in a safe and controlled way. The big screen is where fantasy and fiction come alive, where heroes save the day and villains meet their match. We expect to be observers, not participants in a story of horror and violence. But on the night of July 20, 2012, in Aurora, Colorado, that line between fiction and reality was brutally shattered. The Century 16 movie theater was hosting the much-anticipated midnight premiere of The Dark Knight Rises, the final film in Christopher Nolan's Batman trilogy. It was a warm summer night, and the theater was filled with excitement. Families, friends, and individuals from the community gathered, eager to enjoy the spectacle on screen. The air smelled of popcorn and soda, and the sound of laughter and chatter filled the lobby. No one could have imagined the nightmare that was about to unfold. Among the crowd was a young man named James Holmes, a 24-year-old with a troubled mind. He was not there as just another fan of the movie. James had traveled from his home in San Diego to Colorado with hopes of studying neuroscience. He had enrolled in a doctoral program at the University of Colorado Medical School, but his life was unraveling. Behind James' quiet demeanor was a mind struggling with mental illness, specifically schizoaffective disorder, a condition that mixes symptoms of schizophrenia with mood disorders. It was a battle he hid well, masking his pain with a facade of normalcy. To classmates and neighbors, James appeared intelligent but withdrawn, polite but distant, a normal guy, as some described him. But beneath the surface, James was descending into darkness. His mental health deteriorated rapidly. He dropped out of his doctoral program and began to isolate himself. His thoughts grew more disjointed and paranoid. It was during this time that the idea of violence began to take hold. On the evening of July 20, James entered the Century 16 theater wearing tactical gear, a bulletproof vest, helmet, and a gas mask. His hair was dyed a vivid red, resembling the Joker from the Batman franchise, though he later denied trying to imitate the character. He carried with him several firearms and gas canisters, weapons he had painstakingly acquired and prepared. As the lights dimmed and the movie began, the audience settled into their seats, unaware of the horror that was about to descend upon them. Suddenly, James threw a canister filled with tear gas into the crowded auditorium. A choking cloud of gas swept through the theater. People began coughing violently, their eyes burning, struggling to breathe. Panic erupted. In the chaos, James pulled out his guns and began shooting indiscriminately into the crowd. The air was filled with screams and gunfire. People ran for the exits, some helping others, some carrying the wounded. Mothers grabbed their children, friends searched for one another, and strangers became protectors. The entire ordeal lasted only minutes, but for those inside, it felt like an eternity. When police arrived, they found James fleeing to his car behind the theater. He surrendered without resistance and was taken into custody. The aftermath was devastating. 12 people were killed that night. 58 others were injured, many critically. The victims were ordinary people, teachers, students, parents, neighbors, caught in the wrong place at the wrong time. Families were shattered, lives forever changed. As the community mourned, further chilling details emerged. Police found James' apartment rigged with explosives, bombs wired to detonate, threatening even more destruction. Thankfully, law enforcement was able to safely defuse the devices. The nation was stunned by the scale and cruelty of the attack. The legal proceedings that followed raised difficult questions. Was James Holmes a criminal or a victim of mental illness? Could the tragedy have been prevented? How should society respond to such violence? James' defense lawyers argued that he was mentally ill and not criminally responsible for his actions. The prosecution insisted that he had planned the attack carefully and was fully aware of his actions. After a lengthy legal battle and trial in 2014, James Holmes was found guilty on all counts and sentenced to life in prison without parole. The Aurora shooting sparked urgent conversations about gun control, mental health awareness, and public safety. How could a young man with clear signs of mental illness legally obtain weapons capable of mass murder? What support systems had failed him? The tragedy exposed gaps in mental health services and laws. But amid the pain, stories of courage and compassion also emerged. First responders risked their lives to save victims. Strangers helped one another amidst chaos. Survivors shared stories of resilience and healing. Memorials were held across the country, honoring those lost. The Aurora shooting remains one of the deadliest mass shootings in U.S. history. It is a painful reminder of the fragility of safety and the complexity of mental illness. If there is hope, it lies in listening, understanding, and acting. If you or someone you know struggles with mental health, please reach out for help. You are not alone. This story asks us to remember the victims, to honor their lives, and to work toward a safer future for all. Now, let's take a deeper look at the man behind the tragedy, James Holmes himself. James was born in San Diego in 1987. As a child, he was bright and curious, fascinated by science and the mysteries of the brain. His family described him as a quiet and polite boy, one who excelled academically and dreamed of making a difference through research. But as he moved into adolescence and young adulthood, James changed. Friends recalled that he became more withdrawn and distant. His once bright smile faded into a mask of silence. He attended college at the University of California, Riverside, and later pursued graduate studies at the University of Colorado, focusing on neuroscience. But the pressure and isolation began to weigh heavily on him. He withdrew from friends and family, struggled to complete his studies, and began showing signs of severe mental illness. Schizoaffective disorder, as doctors would later diagnose, is a complex condition that blends symptoms of schizophrenia, such as hallucinations and delusions, with mood disorders like depression. James started hearing voices, feeling persecuted, and slipping further away from reality. Despite this, he hid his pain well, convincing many that he was just a quiet, normal person. His downward spiral culminated in the months before the shooting, when James withdrew completely. He dropped out of school, stopped seeing friends, and obsessively planned the attack. Neighbors reported strange behavior, pacing for hours, talking to himself, and barricading his apartment. Though some saw warning signs, no one was able to intervene effectively. This lack of intervention was one of the tragic failures leading to the shooting. On the night of July 20, James put on his tactical gear, helmet, bulletproof vest, and a gas mask, and headed to the Century 16 Theater. He brought with him several firearms, including an assault rifle, a shotgun, and handguns, as well as tear gas canisters and explosives. As the movie began, James detonated a tear gas canister in the middle of the theater. People gasped and started coughing, their eyes burning from the gas. Then the shooting began. The gunfire was random and relentless. People screamed, ducked, and scrambled for exits. Some were shot multiple times, others trampled in the chaos. Emergency responders arrived quickly, but the damage was catastrophic. Among the victims was a Navy veteran named Alexander, a young mother named Jessica, a college student named John, and a beloved local teacher named Cynthia. Each person had a story, a family, hopes for the future, and dreams forever unfulfilled. The survivors faced not only physical injuries, but emotional scars that would last a lifetime. Many battled post-traumatic stress disorder, anxiety, and grief. The community of Aurora grieved deeply, coming together to mourn and support one another. In the days following the shooting, authorities searched James' apartment, discovering explosives wired to detonate. Luckily, bomb disposal experts were able to safely disable the devices, preventing further tragedy. The nation was left in shock and mourning. Questions flooded the media. How could this happen? How could a young man like James, who seemed so normal, carry out such violence? What warning signs had been missed? The legal case against James Holmes was complex and emotional. The trial began nearly 2 years after the shooting, in 2014. Prosecutors presented evidence that James planned the attack carefully and intended to kill as many people as possible. His defense attorneys argued that his severe mental illness made him incapable of understanding his actions. Expert witnesses debated whether James was sane or psychotic during the shooting. The jury had to consider whether he was a cold-blooded killer or a deeply ill man. Ultimately, they found him guilty on all counts of murder and attempted murder. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The Aurora shooting sparked national debate on gun control laws and mental health services. Many argued for stricter regulations on firearms, especially assault-style weapons. Mental health advocates called for better treatment and early intervention for people with serious mental illness. The tragedy highlighted failures in both systems. But amid the sorrow, stories of hope also emerged. First responders acted bravely, saving countless lives. Strangers helped each other amid chaos. Survivors found ways to heal and rebuild. The community of Aurora honored the victims with memorials and charity events. Their resilience inspired many. This tragedy reminds us of the fragility of life and the importance of compassion. It urges us to listen to those who struggle, to watch for warning signs, and to seek help when needed. If you or someone you love is battling mental illness, please know there is support. You are not alone. Thank you for listening to this story. Let us remember the victims, honor their lives, and commit to a safer future for all.